Hello, and welcome to the NSO Parent Preview presentation on student rights and responsibilities at Lewis and Clark College. My name is Jessica Karen, and I am the current Interim Director for Student Rights and Responsibilities, or what we like to call SRR. In my role, I oversee all operations and case management for the SRR office, as well as facilitate the Welfare Intervention Network at Lewis and Clark. Today, I'm going to briefly run through our four important topics that relate to the student rights of your student when they arrive at Lewis and Clark. These topics include your student's conduct and our accountability process, the Welfare Intervention Network, COVID-19 Expectations on campus, and how you, as family and friends, can help support your student in being successful when working with us. Before I hop into those topics, I want to introduce my two staff members who are not here in this video, but they're going to be instrumental to your student success this year. Michael Paz and Kate Baca are two second-year graduate assistants who work in my office and manage a lot of our administrative tasks and case management. They will be assisting in all of these topics I go over for this coming year, and most likely they'll be the one you're interacting with via email. The first topic I want to go over is SRR and student conduct, which is the majority of what SRR does. I've posted our SRR mission here, but what I really want you to understand is that SRR is here to both teach your student about their rights at the college and also teach them about the impact they can have on others in their community when they don't uphold policies that we've set in place. We strive to educate rather than adjudicate on code of conduct violations, and we do so for the betterment of your student and the betterment of the whole LC community. I think what I really want to stress is that our goal is to keep your student here at Lewis and Clark and to make sure that they and the people around them have the best experience possible. And that's why we have our code of conduct in place. Some of the ways your students might interact with us are through informal and formal hearings on policy violations. Now, I know that won't be your student, definitely someone else's student, but regardless of whose student it is, something that we know is that as students develop and begin their life away from home, they're going to make mistakes. That's just going to happen. But when this happens, we have a process where we are, one, upholding your student's rights to due process. We never assume that a student has actually made a conduct violation until after we've discussed this with them. We'll invite them in, have a conversation from their perspective of what happened, and then if we feel like between our conversation and the evidence that we have on our end that a student is responsible, we talk to them about the potential impact they might have had on themselves and others and what they can do to kind of make up for that. How can they bring themselves back into the community and reestablish trust? And that's a process that we call restorative justice. All of our hearings are overseen by resolution coordinators, and they outreach to your student through their LC email. So it's important for your student to keep an eye out on that if they feel like they might have had a policy violation or have been documented by an RA or something like that. Other reasons why your student might see us is for conflict management and educational events. For conflict management, there are various people on campus who can help facilitate discussions for your student, but that is something our office can do as well. And our staff is trained to have these sit-down discussions where we can de-escalate some tension, work with your students to get on the same page, and hopefully move a discussion through from there. We're also looking at expanding training for this to other people on campus so that your student can go to people that they trust within the community and have those same conversations that way. Along with that, we're planning on doing a number of educational events this year that look a little bit different from years past in order to really emphasize that we want your student to know their rights on campus after they read the policy, of course. We want to have more in-depth discussions about these things like free speech or protesting or other forms of civic engagement. And so we'll be holding events this year where students can engage in that process and understand what they can and can't do on campus. So tell them to keep an eye out for that. The second topic I want to talk to you about today is the Welfare Intervention Network, or WIN. WIN is a dedicated team of Lewis and Clark professionals who collaboratively coordinate outreach efforts to help students, faculty, and staff who may be a potential health or safety risk to themselves or others. What I like to explain this as is we are a group of professionals from various offices across campus with different expertise. And we meet once a week to review cases submitted to us through our Welfare Intervention Network reporting form. And case by case go through and assess the risk posed to different student and community members and how we as professionals can support them on campus. Sometimes this is just individual support to make sure that they have what they need and there isn't a whole bunch of disruption. And sometimes there is disruption to the community, so it's to both help the community and help that student involved. When your student will see us. Typically, the 3 ways that they're going to interact with us are through informational interviews following a report. So a lot of times I might do intakes interviews with your student just to gather more information about how they're doing, if a report is vague or unclear. The second might be a check-in from a community member that we send through the Welfare Intervention Network to ensure the welfare of your student. So this might be a area director from their building coming in and seeing how they are and gathering more information that way. And then finally, they may have meetings with specific Welfare Intervention Network members to coordinate support services. This might be meeting with our case management office in order to coordinate for therapy or counseling services off campus or other resources in the Portland area. It could be meeting with student support services to get academic accommodations. It can be a number of different things depending on the need of that individual student. There's also a chance that we may be in touch with you. And this is going to be rare because your student's information is protected by FERPA, which is the Federal Education and Rights and Privacy Act. We sometimes have to set FERPA aside if we feel there is a sufficient threat of safety to your student that's going to warrant your involvement. It can also be if your student is not cooperating with our process and are posing a risk to the community or themselves, or are a disruption to the community themselves, and we need you to help support us in them in getting connected. And then finally, there are rare occasions where a student may waive their FERPA rights and request that we give more information to you as a parent or as a friend or family member. Typically, their emergency contact is the person that we'll be in touch with. If you or one of your students would like to file a report to WIN, so say maybe they have a roommate that's exhibiting some concerning behavior or a classmate or something along those lines, anyone is encouraged to file a report with WIN, including yourself. And you can do so by going to the L. Clark website and searching for Welfare Intervention Network. Our website posted here if you want to write that down. And when you get onto the WIN website, it's one page, and at the very top of it, you're going to see a big gray button that says Report a Concerning Situation. If you click on that, it will take you to our reporting form where you can fill us in on the person you're concerned about and why you're concerned about them. And again, all of those reports come to our Welfare Intervention Network to evaluate for risk and to assess what kind of outreach is needed. The third thing I want to talk about is COVID-19 expectations for this year. And COVID-19 expectations relate to my office specifically, despite being out of our health and welfare office, because SRR will be part of the enforcement of our health guidelines this semester. You should have received community health guidelines before arriving here, and this is your reminder that you and your students should review those and make sure you have a thorough understanding of what's expected to you, both on campus and in the residence halls and other community functions. While these are called guidelines, they're really mandatory, especially while COVID is still kind of looming around us. At some point, we may decide to set these aside, but for right now, it's important that all of our community, students, faculty, and staff are involved in ensuring that our community is safe on campus and ensuring that we can keep our doors open and allow students to learn in the way that is best for them. We'll be doing our part, like I said, as staff and faculty, and so we want to remind your student to make sure that they are also following the guidelines. Should your student not follow the guidelines, be aware that we have implemented a COVID mitigation policy, which basically states here that if a student fails to comply with health guidelines or the directions of college officials acting in performance of their duties, that behavior is prohibited. And behaviors that ignore health guidelines and actively endanger the safety of the community can result in disciplinary action. Just with like all of our other policy violations, we are going to try and be educational in addressing these issues with students. At first, they might receive a warning depending on the severity of the policy violation. But after that, we're going to begin educational conversations, particularly around the impact that your student could have on somebody by not having those health guidelines be followed. Maybe that's the impact on immunocompromised students or faculty and staff or people who have those immunocompromised individuals at home. So we'll start with those educational conversations with your student as well. If, at a last resort, we are unable to get your student to comply with health guidelines on campus, we may choose to remove your student from campus. And that is really a last resort for us, and I have a lot of faith that our community is going to stick together and do what they need to do. And along those lines, this is where I want to pitch our We Before Me at LC slogan. You'll see marketing about this on campus throughout your time when you're bringing your student to campus, and your student's going to see it while they're here as well. And our emphasis with Me Before We is that thought around the community and those around you, which really aligns with SRR's theme of impact and personal accountability. Tell your student to speak up when they see something that does not follow health guidelines. Or any guidelines. Really, we want to pitch that students should not be bystanders when things are going wrong. But in particular with COVID-19, if your student feels safe approaching someone from a safe distance, we're encouraging them to do so. Because sometimes people are just going to forget, right? There's not going to be malicious intent behind them forgetting to wear a mask to class or something of that nature. And it might just take someone being like, hey, where's your mask? And then they can go back to their hall and retrieve it. So definitely we are encouraging students to speak up when they say something. That being said, there are other options. If they feel like someone is intentionally trying to harm others and not following the guidelines, they can contact our campus safety, or they can file a report with SRR by going to the SRR website and clicking on the File a Report button. There's a section under the nature of the report called COVID-19 where they can submit kind of what happened. But again, we're trying to avoid campus safety, we're trying to avoid too many of the reports, and really focus on community members reminding each other that we are responsible for each other and the safety of our campus. The final thing that I want to go over is how you can help contribute to the success of your student here at Lewis and Clark and working with the SRR office. Here are the 3 main ways to do that. The first, remind your student to review the college policies. I wish that there was a way to make them shorter and more digestible because they are long and sometimes hard to read, but it's so important that your student does. I am not here to trick your student into having policy violations or get them in trouble. I want them to review those policies and understand why they're there and what is expected of them. So remind your student to do that. The next, there are going to be times where your student comes to you for advice about their interactions with SRR and things like that. And we are going to encourage you to be a listening ear, give them advice as needed, and then encourage them to take your advice and come and talk to us directly. We love hearing from you as friends and family of your student, but we are in the business of student accountability and self-responsibility, and so we would hope that you would help us in encouraging students to talk to us directly. Finally, be aware of FERPA privacy laws and our staff's limitation to interact with you. Again, your students' records, educational records, are protected, and so we aren't able to give you much information without a FERPA waiver in place. And so there may be times where you call and it's frustrating because you want information about a student's conduct that they've had or something like that, and we just can't give you that information. We really rely on your student to relay that to you. That being said, from our point of view, we understand that it's frustrating, so we will try to walk you through kind of generalities if we can. But again, really, you need to have that connection with your student to explain what's going on and have them interact with us if they need clarification on anything. If you want to get in contact with us or you need your student to get in contact with us, again, come on over to the SRR website. You can search student rights and responsibilities on the L. Clark website search bar, or you can go to the link listed here. You can also get in contact with us by emailing srr@lclark.edu, giving us a call at the number listed here, or stopping by our Templeton 110 suite with campus living and NSO. Because of COVID, we will be trying to de-densify our office. So that will mean less staff in the office to take phone calls and be in person for questions. So the best way for you or your student to get in touch with us is probably by email, and we can set up appointments as needed or phone calls as needed. And that's it. I want to thank you all for listening. I know this is a long presentation about a lot of dry material, but we're really looking forward to working with your student this year and helping them become responsible, amazing community members. Thank you.